We are exactly 3 weeks away from the start of the Beijing Winter Olympics, and we're also right in the middle of the Omicron wave. So tonight we go beyond the headlines with 3 Canadian Olympians to see how they're preparing and trying to stay COVID-free. Brad Gushue is the skip for Canada's men's curling team. He returns to Olympic ice for the second time after winning gold in Turin in 2006. Maddie Schizas just won the National Women's Figure Skating Championship in Ottawa. This is her first Olympics. And Natalie Spooner is off to her third Olympic Games as part of the Canadian women's hockey team, winning gold at Sochi in 2014 and silver in 2018. Well, I'm thrilled to have you on the National. Welcome to all three of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
And Brad, let's start with you. How has the pandemic affected your plans as we get so close to the Games?
It's had a pretty dramatic impact, to be honest. We've changed our plans multiple times, and right now the plan that we have is to really get us the best chance of going over to Beijing and having a negative COVID test. So that's priority number one, because without that test, we can't even compete.
So you're in Vancouver, so what does that mean? What do you have to do now to give yourself the best chance of testing negative?
Yeah, so our team, we actually flew out here to the Vancouver area yesterday. We're going to be isolating in a house here for 3 weeks. The only time we're going to leave is to go practice. Gives us an opportunity to work together, but also minimize our contacts and reduce the chances of contracting the virus before we go. But the one thing that really kind of still concerns us is that flight over to Beijing. But we're hoping that we reduce the chance that we get it, and we'll see if it pays off.
Maddie, I read that right after you won the national championship that you said one of your biggest concerns was staying COVID-free. So tell us about your plan for doing that.
Yeah, it was definitely on my mind for the past few weeks since Omicron's kind of taken hold around Canada. My plan for the next few weeks is the same as Brad's, just to stick to being at home and being at the rink. Ontario is in lockdown right now, so our rink is pretty empty, which is at least helpful in that sense. So I plan on going very few places and seeing very few people just to try and get those negative COVID tests.
And so, Natalie, what about for you? I mean, obviously the women's hockey team is a lot bigger than a curling team, and you know, Maddie's an individual athlete. How do you deal with being part of a team, but also trying to make sure that you're going to test negative for COVID?
Yeah, I guess in one sense, we've been really fortunate that we have been able to bubble since coming back from Christmas. I mean, through Christmas, it kind of felt like we were in a little bit of the Hunger Games here, kind of how are we going to make it to Beijing. But you know what, we've really, it's been a trust issue. Really, we all have to trust each other, make sure we're doing the right things, and we're in this bubble. You know, we do test every morning before we get to the rink. We wear our masks diligently. So I think that we've all just been doing a really good job, and it's been paying off for us. So fingers crossed going forward here too in this bubble.
Yeah, fingers crossed for sure. I'm going to ask all three of you this question, starting with you, Natalie. I can't imagine what it's like to be an elite Olympic athlete, and especially so close to the Games. And in a normal year, I guess, you'd be concentrating on your sport, Natalie. How is COVID making it more difficult?
You know what? In one sense, I almost think it's actually making it easier. I mean, we've been kind of forced into this bubble where we don't have those outside distractions, and we really just have to focus on what we can do as a team. And for us, that's every day getting to the rink, making sure that we're pushing ourselves, we're getting better, so that by the time we get to Beijing, we're the best team we can be. And kind of it kind of takes out all those outside distractions. And us at World Championships, we didn't have fans. We were in a bubble again there, and I think we had a lot of success. So we're kind of just riding the wave of this bubble.
And Brad, you mentioned that you and your team are isolating in a house in Vancouver. I don't know. I could see that being a good thing or a bad thing. Are you guys going to end up spending too much time together?
Probably, but I have to agree with Natalie. I think it's eliminated a lot of the distractions that you face. And 16 years ago, when I had the chance to go, we found the time leading up to the Olympics very chaotic, and there were so many opportunities to go to functions, to meet people, appearances, and competitions, and we were a little bit overwhelmed. And this time around, we've been able to simplify it, really just kind of focus on making sure that we're prepared, but also making sure we're doing the right things to make sure we're safe. So it has really simplified it, but I think all of us kind of feel that little bit of stress and anxiety that, it's not 100% within our control. Like, we could do everything right and still something could happen. But I think all of us are just trying to really reduce that risk and also make sure we're ready to compete once we get over to Beijing.
Maddie, in your sport, figure skating, obviously the physical part of it is huge, but also the mental part of it. And you concerned at all about COVID making it harder to kind of keep your focus as you get ready?
I think there's no competition ever that doesn't have distractions. This is just a different one. As a distraction, it's obviously not ideal to be worried about COVID and everything else, but it's also certainly not the first event where that's been the case. It's just, for me, it's about focusing on what I can control, and that's taking all the appropriate measures to try and protect myself from COVID. But at the same time, if something happens and I do test positive, it is what it is. Like, you can't control every single aspect, and it's about controlling the controllables.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have maybe only about 30 seconds for each of you to answer this question. But Maddie, let me start with you. What are you looking forward to? COVID aside, forget about COVID for a moment. What are you looking forward to in Beijing?
I'm looking forward to just taking in the experience. It's going to be my first Olympic Games, and I'm just looking forward to really enjoying the experience. I'm excited to compete in the team competition for figure skating. That'll be a new opportunity for me because figure skating is obviously an individual sport. I'm really looking forward to just participating in the team event and hopefully skating programs I'm proud of.
Natalie, you probably know a lot of fans of your team. It's easy for us to just sit back and go, oh, they'll be in the final game. So, it just comes down to making sure they beat the Americans in the gold medal game. Is that a challenge for you at all in terms of kind of not getting ahead of yourself?
For sure. I think this whole time we've been super process oriented, and I think that that's given us success. So concentrating on one game at a time and making sure that we're getting better every single game, because I think that will let us put our best foot forward come that final game, whoever we're facing. So I think we just try to really stay internally focused on what our team does well and what makes us successful.
And Brad, you touched on this. You've been there before in Turin, gold medalist, and does that... I mean, do you go into these games as the second games thinking, okay, I want to sort of savor some of these moments a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the focus for me. And in 16 years, my perspective's changed quite dramatically. And I really want to enjoy this experience, try and make my family as much a part of it as possible through, some of the technology that we have, and just really enjoy it, be part of that bigger Team Canada and get out and see some of the other events. But we're still going to be focused on what we need to do. That's priority number one.
All three of you are great athletes, great representatives of Canada, and good luck.
Thank you.